Hi, and welcome to the Bouncing Back Podcast, Professionals Thriving with Chronic Illness. I'm Melissa McCurley, your host, and someone navigating life and business with the challenges of autoimmune disease. This podcast is about resilience, inspiration, and actionable strategies to help you thrive, no matter where you are in your health journey. In each episode, we'll share stories and insights from professionals who've bounced back stronger. Let's redefine what it means to live and thrive with chronic illness. Now, let's dive in. Hello, I'm your host for today. My name is Melissa McCurley, and for over 20 years, I have been a professional in both the TV and film industries, as well as real estate, as a realtor and a real estate investor. In 2020, I had a life reset from an autoimmune disease that had me having to step back from pretty much everything. 2024 was my first year back full-time in real estate, and now I'm passionate, thank you, about sharing stories and strategies for creating success while living with a chronic illness, because it is possible. And I'm so excited to share with you our guest for today, Athena Brownson. She is a fellow realtor based in Denver, Colorado, and she's recognized as one of Denver's top agents. She's received the Compass Bounce Back with Passion Award, the 5-Star Professional Award, and the DMAR Excellence Silver Award. She's been a professional freestyle skier and also has a background in interior design as well as real estate. And she too is passionate about helping others find their successes in the face of health challenges. So Athena, welcome to the podcast.
Melissa, thank you so much for having me and for the lovely introduction. That was a beautiful resume that you just gave me, so I really appreciate it. And now I'm excited to share my journey. We have so much in common.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for making time. And it's easy to introduce somebody like you when you have such great credibility and credits and accomplishments. So I guess let's just, thank you. I guess let's just launch into, what was your journey? Kind of where were you at when your health piece started? When did that happen? What did that look like for you?
So my life really did a complete 180, and I use that term a little bit in a punny way because I was a professional skier. So my entire childhood, from about 15 to 24, I was skiing 300 days a year and traveling the world. I competed in X Games. I competed in Dew Tour. I was basically all over the globe. And I called myself the Energizer Bunny. I would wake up at 5 a.m. and, go to the gym before I hit the mountain, and then go back to the gym after the mountain, and then go socialize. Now, the idea of that today, living with chronic illness, makes me it really does feel like it was a completely different lifetime. So skiing, I believe, is really what unknowingly helped me build the toolkit of resilience and the toolkit that I would need later in life, unfortunately, to really face chronic illness head on. So when I decided to finish skiing, I retired gracefully at the age of 24, and I, like you, went into the world of interior design and absolutely loved it, but didn't feel like it was going to be, I needed something where I could be responsible for my own success. So something where the amount of work that I put in would be, I could get anywhere I wanted to by working hard. And I think that's the entrepreneurship is really goes hand in hand with athletics. Well, after about 2.5 years of interior design, I decided, let's try this real estate thing out. I had a girlfriend that was a real estate agent at the time, and she really, 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 I had a horrible misconception of real estate agents. I was like, real estate agents are used car salesmen, it's all corny. I couldn't have been more wrong. So I started in real estate about a decade ago, which I was telling you, time flies. And right as I started to get to the top of my game at about year 3, I had neck surgery. I had unfortunately blown a couple of discs in my cervical spine skiing. So And when I was recovering from having neck surgery, my immune system was weakened,
Mm.
and I started getting all these really weird symptoms and really weird illnesses that were just not in line with the young, healthy adult that I was. And like I said, I was in professional athlete shape. And all of a sudden, I started having chronic fatigue and these horrible stomach issues and GI issues. And I lost pretty much all of my energy and my ability to really do much. And I had I was very fortunate. I had a doctor that said, I think we should test you for Lyme disease. I told him he was crazy. I'd never even seen a tick before. And sure enough, I tested positive for Lyme disease and about 3 co-infections. And like you, that unfortunately for me turned into autoimmune diseases. So now it's been managing for the past 8 years several autoimmune diseases. And I get about 4 plasma transfusions a month.
Okay. That's a
Yeah.
lot. So it just turned on a dime for you too.
Yeah, it did.
Wow.
It really, it's miraculous how quickly my health went from feeling like I was at the top of the world and really, being able to act in that way, to barely being able to get out of bed. And I think that's something that anyone with chronic illness can relate to, is how hard every single step of each day is, just getting yourself out of bed, making it to the shower, making it to do this. Everything is so much harder when you have chronic illness, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it sounds like some of your symptoms were the fatigue, the gut. Did you have like the joint pain?
Oh, yeah. So it developed into a really severe, basically my antibodies attack my nerves. So the protective sheathing around my nerves.
Do you get neuropathy? Like
the worst neuropathy.
Yeah.
My hands, like you can see, they're constantly on fire.
Mm-hmm. Do you have trouble texting? Like I struggle with that as a realtor.
EMF. So I have an EMF sensitivity, electromagnetic frequency, and that's phone and computer, which is pretty much our life. And at one point, it was so bad that I actually had to move into a RV that wasn't connected to any electricity, that I could turn the Wi-Fi off completely. I would be writing $1 million contracts with lead gloves and a lead blanket covering me, because I would literally get such bad electrical burns on my hands and chest that I would start bleeding.
Wow.
So my EMF sensitivity has gotten a little bit better, but basically it's just the radiation hitting me in the nerves and it gives me electrical burns. So it kind of feels like, I feel like chronic illness a little bit feels like a science fiction novel.
Right? Sometimes it is, if we can have a good humor about it, you're just sort of like,
it's ridiculous.
I keep waiting for the cool part where I can move things with my mind. I'm like, surely at some point that piece comes in. I don't know if I want to be telepathic. I don't really want to know what people are thinking, but to be able to move things,
I'm waiting for it. Yeah.
Maybe open up a dimensional portal. Like I would like that side benefit as well.
I think that we should probably get together and work on this, because I'm with you. I'm like, with all of the tools that we learn through chronic illness and how bizarre so many of the elements of it are, you would think that there was something, some sort of superpower that was coming. But you know what? I think that the superpowers that you gain through chronic illness are actually something that are invaluable to creating the person that you are. And unfortunately, I always say I'd never wish this on anyone, as I'm sure you wouldn't either. But I don't believe that I would be the person that I am today had I not gotten sick, because it's really, really, it's forced me to stop, slow down and really look at within and find what keeps me going and find my why and find my passion and find out really who I am as a human. And I honestly don't know that I would have done the work that would be necessary to be the best version of myself had I not gotten sick. So although it's something that I wouldn't wish my worst enemy, I do, we've got to find the superpowers that it does give us.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm with you. Like you mentioned earlier about, how you used to be able to do this and you get up at 5. And I know for me, when I quit mourning who I used to be and I quit measuring my success by my vision of getting back to that, and I let it go, and I chose to open and make myself available to whatever was coming in with this, and just choosing to believe that at some point, probably not today, back on the hard days, right? But at some point I'll be able to make meaning of this, and it will shift my life for the better if I let it, right? If I'm open to it. That's what helped me get out of like the darkness.
And I think that's what's important, is understanding that there is going to, in anything in life, whether you're any adversity that you're encountering, it is important to understand that there is a period of mourning, and that mourning is very valid, and it's a key element to the experience. But the key is to find how to not get stuck in the mud, how to mourn, and then be able to continue forward and continue fighting. Because when you look at your life, you never look back and say, wow, I grew so much when things were easy. You look at the most difficult parts, the most difficult chapters of life, and that's where you find that your character is built. That's where you find growth. That's where you find your resilience, your grit, and it really builds you into the best version of yourself. Now, it might not feel like we're the best versions of ourselves. We don't feel great.
Day to day, sometimes not, but
I was laughing, this was the perfect podcast. It's like -4 out right now. And
wow.
It's so cool. And all my joints are like, how it gets when the weather changes dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, if anyone understands, it's going to be Melissa.
It's going to be her. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And just having the grace for ourselves day to day, and surrounding ourselves with people who, support us, and knowing that we can be successful in spite. I too woke up with a rough joint day. I think it's the humidity. I don't know what but it was just like one of those where you feel like something exploded. For me, like the joint feels like electricity, like a painful electricity, right? Running through just sort of everything.
You and I need to talk.
Yeah, for sure. And some days I wake up like, oh God, but it's like, do I want to cancel a podcast? No, I don't. So, you just maybe cancel other things and make space, and then
that's what I did today.
Do the best you can, right?
I had some showings this morning.
Wow.
And I think that's what, the biggest thing for me was, and in real estate and in life, we're kind of taught to say yes to everything. And in my, previous career of skiing, it was yes. I was constantly going and going, and I didn't know boundaries. I didn't know how to say no. So what chronic illness has really taught me is the ability to understand what my boundaries are, and understand what I can push myself through, and when I need to just lean on my team. And I really believe that, I say your tribe is who are going to help you get through everything. And if I didn't have such an amazing team around me, there would be no way that I would be able to do what I do. But just like you, I woke up with a very, very rough body day. My body is not working. I did a couple of showings this morning. I said, you know what, I'm going to cancel the rest of my afternoon after the podcast. And you just have to learn how to make those difficult decisions for yourself. And that's something that I personally did not learn until the last 5 years, probably. Because even when I got sick initially, I tried to push through absolutely everything. And I learned that I was just doing myself a disservice.
Yeah. The feedback on that's pretty quick, isn't it? Once you have a chronic illness, but you're right. It forces us to prioritize. It forces us to think differently. And then you mentioned your team. So that was going to be one of my questions I wanted to hit is, what does your support system look like now personally and in your business, now that we have to acknowledge the fact that we can't do everything? What have you kind of built to help facilitate that?
Yeah. So I'm an only child, first of all, and a professional skier. So that's a one-person sport and an only child. I did not know the art of delegation. I did not know, I was someone who wanted to get everything done by myself. I wanted to execute it perfectly. And what I didn't realize is that I was robbing other people around me from the opportunity for them to shine, because the things that I'm good at, they might not be good at, but the things that they're really good at, I'm probably not as good at. So I was taking away the opportunity from the people around me that wanted to help, to do something that really, really, filled their cup. And I was taking that from them by trying to do everything myself. So
I love that. That's
right?
I love the spirit of, like, as you said that, I just felt so warm and tingly, like thinking of it that way is not
Isn't
always about,
it neat?
yeah, but allowing people to come in and add their best. That's really beautiful. Thank you.
When a coach said that to me once, and
Yeah.
it really stuck with me, because in my mind, it was always, well, I don't want to inconvenience someone
Yep.
with my illness by asking them to do ABC. But what really, by asking your people, your tribe, your team, by leaning on them and asking them for help with certain items, and saying, hey, these are my strengths and these are the things that I'm not as great at, and I know that I should delegate so I can conserve my energy for what is, where I thrive. You're actually giving the opportunity to someone else to be their best, and
Yeah.
you're giving them the opportunity to shine. And you're not inconveniencing them. You're
Right.
giving them an opportunity. And honestly, I look, at my team, and these are humans that, unfortunately, when you get chronic illness and your life changes dramatically. I was a social butterfly. I would say I had like 100 of friends.
Right.
Well, that was very quickly made apparent that, when you can't go out and do things all the time and be that social butterfly, and that a lot of people will weed themselves out of your life
Yeah.
very quickly. And that is also a period of mourning.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
when you get to when you really, really get into it and you find out who those core humans are in your life that that you can rely on, that have your back, that want what's best for you, that understand the challenges, even if they're not chronically ill, they
Right.
have empathy and understand that and love you to the point where they want to make sure to support us. And I could not do what I do without the amazing people that I work with. And that's, it has taken years to curate the right group, I would say.
Yeah.
But now there's nothing I could be more grateful for than, the art of team and the art of delegation. And it's something that I'm consistently working on and learning, because, like I said, it does not come naturally for me.
That's amazing. And yeah, I think a lot of people need to hear that. I think we do get so independent, and like you said, we don't want to inconvenience. We don't want to show,
Exactly.
one of the things I sat with a lot was, how do I get through this and make space for what I need physically, but not fall into the victim of it. Right. That's I took forever with the podcast. I wanted to have a year of full-time real estate, have good sale,
Yeah.
before I even started this, because it's like, it's that thing about where you put your attention. Right.
Yes.
But also, if you're in denial, you don't create the space, you don't build the teams. So it's finding the way to hook into the positivity of it for yourself, but other people, like you
It's
mentioned.
a hard balance.
Sure. But it is a balance, and it's just one of the other skills.
It
But I
is.
love that. So do you have a TC, I'm going to guess, with your challenges with, is that one of your key?
I have a TC. I have a operations manager / executive assistant. And
Nice.
then I have 2 business partners that I generally bring in on most of my deals, just because like I said, I do 4 plasma transfusions a month. So those are days that I'm not going to be able to be showing houses or attending closings. And
Right.
usually it falls like a Friday through a Monday. So no, I know that I have incredible people that I trust more than I trust even myself some days, that are going to take such great care of my clients. And to have found those people, I mean, and that is also something I learned, is that I'm not great at hiring. I absolutely need basically help. Like I found that I always see the bright side of everything, and definitely took me a while to find the right fits. And now, my team has been together for about 4 years, and I couldn't be more grateful.
That's awesome. And so one of the things you delegate is hiring then, is what I heard you
Yeah.
say.
So
Yeah.
I actually have had my company and help me interview my managing broker, because the first two assistants that I hired just weren't the right fit.
Right.
And unfortunately I did, I just didn't have the toolkit for understanding what to look for and how to hire. And I think through coaching and mentorship over the years, have a better grasp on that now. But I hope that I don't have to do it for a long time, because I love the people that I work
Like how
with.
they say forever. Yeah,
Exactly.
Tom Ferry talks about staying in your zone of greatness. Figuring
Yeah.
out what that is for you, and then doubling down on that, and then hiring, surrounding yourself with people who are good at those other things so that you can stay in your zone of greatness. And I think about that when I'm doing stuff. I'm like, am I in my zone of greatness right now? Who could I delegate this to? Am I for
Time
sure?
blocking, I do that. So
Yeah.
look, I do a lot of time studies whenever I feel like I'm off balance. I look, time block my calendar and then color code it accordingly. Like, what is my green time? Where is my time that is the highest dollar per hour and that I thrive the most in? The things that make me feel lighter and not heavier.
Yeah.
What are the things that are yellow that I just need to get done, but I want to make sure that I'm not spending a huge amount of time on those items? And then the red items, which are things that I can delegate off my plate because they're not my expertise, or my time can be better served elsewhere. And when you're managing chronic illness with a career, you really have to be intentional with your time. So understanding where your time is going and what can be delegated and what you should lean into more, and where that zone of greatness is, I think is one of the most difficult but important things to understand. And I would highly recommend to anyone who is trying to figure that out, do a time study and then do the heavy light test. Like, what activities do you leave feeling light? What activities do you leave feeling heavy? And if you can rid as many of those heavy tasks out of your life as possible, it will serve you and your stress levels, your ability to continue thriving very well.
Yeah, very, very well. So during the course of your day, do you build in rest periods, or do you build in rest periods? Like if you're doing a lot of showings, do you I don't want to say take a day off, but with the patterns of energy outlay, what does that look like for you when you're succeeding at that? I know we have what we're trying to do and what we end up doing, but
yeah. So I do struggle with that. Coming from an athletic background, I tend to be a workaholic. I love what I do. Like, I genuinely love real estate. So for me, it's very difficult for me to rest, even though my body will force me to, unfortunately. So what I do is I really try, I use something called a greatness tracker, where it outlines the activities that I should be doing every week in order to keep my business from having huge ebbs and flows. So how many phone calls am I making? How many face-to-face meetings? How many notes am I writing? How many open houses? And what I learned is that I put a lot of my health must do's into my greatness tracker, so that it's combining both work and self-care. Because I know that if I'm not moving my body and getting exercise, at least 3 or 4 times a week, even if it's just something very light, that I'm not going to be mentally my best. And I know that if I'm not doing, like for instance, vestibular physical therapy right now, and if I'm not doing red light therapy or hyperbaric chambers, or that I'm not going to be able to function. So I need to make more of a priority, but I do absolutely have certain elements that I keep myself accountable to. And the way that I do that is that I incorporate it into the things that I must do in business as well. Because you and I both know that unless we're taking care of ourselves, that we can't take care of other people.
Yeah.
Period. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, it's like put the seatbelt on first, but I like how you couple that, the greatness activities, and you think of the business and the self-care ones at an equal weight. I think I'm thinking too much of them separately. I try to weight them the same, but you know what happens when you get busy and you're a type A and you love to work.
I did that.
Yeah, no, that's super smart. I love it. So tools you're using: a hyperbaric chamber.
Yes. So
gentle exercise.
Gentle exercise. So I have a trainer that I've worked with for years. So she's been with me on my journey through this. She can look at my face and tell how much energy I have.
Yeah.
So help, base my workouts on that. But honestly, a lot of it is mental as well. I am a firm believer that when you're battling chronic illness, our brains create neural pathways that are telling us that certain things are going to cause pain, or certain environments, or, texting, for instance. So I've done a lot of work with a therapist doing EMDR. I do a lot of like binaural beats, frequencies, to just really work on neuroplasticity and rewiring the brain to not go straight to the pain response. And I think that's an element of wellness and healing that is often overlooked, is all of the trauma that comes with having a chronic illness. So unless you really, I don't know if you've read The Body Keeps the Score.
I've read about the first 3 chapters, and then it was so heavy.
It's heavy.
That I kind of had to step away from it from a bit, but I have it. But when I learned that, I used Curable. One of the many tools is I got the Curable app, which is a chronic pain management app. And they talk about check it out. Okay, Curable. Go to Curable. Yeah. They do a lot of somatic stuff. And when they have an interview with the brain scientist on there, and it was the first place where I was introduced to the idea that pain isn't linked to something specific in the body. That, like you said, it's a neural relationship pathway that can be built on nothing, essentially. Or it could be built on an old injury, but it also can be built on. And when I could really internalize that, I thought, oh my God, that was a big key into understanding, so then now I just have to reroute the wiring, right? I just have to.
Like muscle memory. When I was a skier, we would train in a certain way so that my muscles would have the memory to do certain activities and not get hurt. Same thing with our brains. We have unfortunately, chronic illness has created these neural pathways that we're in fight or flight. It's your nervous system is trying to protect you, but unfortunately that creates a nervous system that's constantly trying to protect you. So when you really start to do the work and realize that we have the ability to rewire our brains, and it's very, it's not an overnight thing. I believe I have an incredible pain doctor that leads these classes once a month on using tools such as like binaural beats and meditation to kind of rewire the brain away from pain. But I really believe that you have to create that muscle memory, or those new routes in your brain, basically, before you can really heal. And that's a difficult thing to do, but it's possible. And we have all these amazing tools, like you said, like apps like Curable, and we have access to so much information now, that being able to connect with people that are struggling with similar illnesses and find out what's working for them. And for me, I noticed that stress is the number one thing that sets flares off for me. So I have to be very, very mindful of, in real estate, I think it's impossible to avoid stress, but be able to have the tools to mitigate stress as much as possible. And for me, that's like, okay, if I'm getting some exercise, I know that mentally I'm going to be so much better, and my stress load is going to be so much less. So what are those elements in your life that help support, taking as much stress away as possible, so that you can then be the best version of yourself in your work environment?
And like you said, we're going to have it, particularly in real estate. So learning how to mitigate, you can plan, and that's a tool, but then having those intra-moment, intra-hour, tools to be able to disperse it, is cool. Well, I would love to link in the show notes information about your doctor. So I'll drop that for people who, when you were touching on that, were like, ding, ding, ding. Yes, more, please.
A lot of amazing professionals that I'd love to share.
Yeah, we'll link them. And I'm also creating a Facebook community group called Bouncing Back for this, which, it's not up yet. It'll be up by the time that this goes public. Yeah. And we can, a place for us to continue the conversation and continue to share. Things that are working. So we're kind of coming up on time.
I figured.
We can talk all day.
I know. I'm like, we might have to do a part 2.
So my last question I like to end with is for people who are right now still really in the struggle, still in the symptom to symptom moments. What would you share with them to kind of, throw them some inspiration as they're trying to visualize what their life, might could look like, starting to rebuild that and just where they are today?
Oh man, first of all, my heart goes out, and I want everyone to know that they're not alone. First of all, chronic illness can feel extremely isolating, and it can feel, very lonely being trapped in a body that is not functioning properly. So finding the community that truly supports you and can help, that you feel comfortable leaning on, is critical. But for me, it was, okay, what are the small activities throughout the day that I know that if I'm struggling are going to help me get through? So for instance, find the things that you're passionate about. Like for me, I love music. So when I can't get up in the morning, I blast my favorite music, and it gives me that little bit of a pump up to get out of bed and get in the shower.
What's your favorite one? Like, do you have a power song?
I mean, honestly, you'll giggle, but I'm a huge Machine Gun Kelly fan.
I don't even know who that is. I'm gonna have to go listen.
Oh my gosh, I'll send you some. Okay. But there's a song called "Bad Mother Effer," and it really is like, it gives me just like that confidence boost to be like, okay, I can do this. Yeah. And that'll be the case, if I'm going to a listing presentation and I don't feel great, I'm like, okay, I'm going to blast this music. I'm going to tell do my mental affirmations.
Yeah.
I'm a huge supporter of nighttime and morning rituals, routines. So writing out my gratitudes, writing out affirmations. I am healthy. I am strong. I am resilient. All things work well for me. The universe has my back. Like, just inundating myself with messages of hope, because at the end of the day, there is hope. And you have to understand that, like we said earlier, the most growth and the most incredible, fruitful things in our lives come from the most challenging times in our lives. Yeah. So although you might not see it right now, and it's very, very difficult, you can't see the forest from the trees.
Yeah.
That exactly it. But one day, if you can find, moment by moment, day by day, finding a way to just be a little bit better than the day before, or just a little, and better doesn't have to mean pushing yourself more.
Right.
It could mean taking care of yourself by saying no to something, but it's, what are you doing daily to take care of yourself? And prioritizing that, and understanding that it's okay to say no to things, because in this society, it's hard to say no.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I love this. Where can people find you?
Yes, I'd love to connect. So please reach out. I'd say the easiest way to contact me would be my website, because it has all my social, my phone number, my email, and that's just www.AthenaBrownsonRealtor. I'll spell that AthenaBrownsonRealtor.com. That has my Instagram, which is also Athena Brownson Realtor, but my phone number and email, and I would love to connect. I don't bite. If anyone out there, would like to chat about something you're going through, whether it's real estate or chronic illness, I would love to connect.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I appreciate you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review. And if you know someone who would benefit from these stories of success, please share this with them. check out all of it. Yeah, share it. Check out Athena's website, check out her socials, and you can follow her journey and learn about the Denver real estate market. And thanks for tuning in to the Bouncing Back podcast. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with more stories of success. And until then, keep bouncing back. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Bouncing Back podcast, Professionals Thriving with Chronic Illness. I hope you found inspiration and actionable takeaways to support you on your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need a little encouragement today. Remember, thriving with chronic illness is possible. You are stronger than you think. Until next time, take care and keep bouncing